What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Full 90. First of all, massive thank you for 29,000 subscribers. We have 2 months until the 1st of January 2025. And remember, if we reach 30,000 subscribers after over 6 years on this channel, I will finally be introducing La Liga, Serie A, and Bundesliga prediction videos. So if you want to see all of that, then be sure to subscribe down below. There are some super exciting fixtures this week. We have Brighton up against Manchester City, Chelsea up against Arsenal, Liverpool up against Villa, and so much more. So make sure you drop a like and leave your predictions down in the comments below. Real quick, here are the winning accumulators since the last Premier League prediction video, and flashing up on the screen are all of the people that are supporting us over on Patreon. They have access to the exclusive members tips and accumulators, as well as the Patreon only group chat, which is super duper exciting. So if you want to get a shout out in every single video and support me in the channel, then be sure to click that first link in the description to get all things Champions League, Europa League, Conference League, all the leagues that I mentioned earlier on in this video over there on Patreon. Thank you so much for the support, and like I said, on the road to 30,000 subscribers, if we get there, I will at the very least start those series into the new year. I'm also doing something later in this video that I don't think I've done in a single Premier League prediction video for as long as I can remember, but nevertheless, we're going to start with what promises to be a very exciting game. It's Brentford up against Bournemouth. Now, I will say this, fade Bournemouth at your peril, because I have backed Bournemouth to lose their last 3 games, and they've claimed 7 points from games against Arsenal, Aston Villa, and Manchester City. So congratulations to Bournemouth. Brentford in the previous game week, if we have a little look, they played against Fulham, and we correctly tipped that Fulham would beat Brentford 2-1. But Brentford were leading 1-0 going into stoppage time, despite Fulham absolutely, honestly battering them all game. I couldn't believe Fulham hadn't scored, and then Fulham scored 2 goals to give us our correct score prediction. Another one from last video, I had a comment from someone specifically saying how wrong I was about the Man United-Chelsea game, and I could not have been more correct. I said with Chelsea's decent form and Man United's new manager bounce and all the hype and excitement that it would be an underwhelming, poor quality 1-1 draw, and that is exactly what happened to the letter. So if you disagree with my predictions, by all means let me know in the comments, but you don't need to make fun, because sometimes you get them right, sometimes you get them wrong, and that is why we do this. But going back to Brentford up against Bournemouth, Brentford need to get something from this game. They don't travel well. They've lost all of their away games this season, but they've played some very good opponents. Man City, Liverpool, Tottenham, Fulham even. But at home, they've been doing all right. But how do you go against Bournemouth? I know Bournemouth, their main results in the 3, obviously they had the draw against Villa away, but the 2 results against Arsenal and City were at home. So I'm not going to bet against Bournemouth again. I'm just not going to do it. So I'm going to say that Brentford and Bournemouth draw 2-2. And the tip is going to be both teams to score on over 2.5 goals at 1.8, because that has been happening in every Brentford game for way back. And there's no reason to think that Bournemouth won't get on the score sheet here with the form that they're in, with the hype that is surrounding the squad, and the form that they're in, like I said. So I think I'm going to go 2-2. Now, after this, it's Crystal Palace up against Fulham. Fulham, they've surpassed Wolves in my Premier League team's record for most correctly predicted and tipped and correct score predicted teams this season in the Premier League. And Crystal Palace, in the previous game week, they drew 2-2 with Wolves, with there being 4 second half goals in that game. I don't see how Fulham lose this game. I will say that. I know Fulham, they're a beast at Craven Cottage, and then away from home, it's a little bit more difficult. And Crystal Palace, if they're going to put up a fight, it's usually going to be at Selhurst Park. Last time out at Selhurst Park, they beat Tottenham 1-0, which was a very unexpected result. But I am going to shade it to Fulham. I'm going to go 2-1. But the tip is going to be Fulham double chance at 1.5, because Fulham currently are outsiders. They're currently underdogs in this fixture. And I'm just not sure that Palace can beat Fulham with the form that they're in. So that's what I'm going with. After this, we travel to the London Stadium for West Ham up against Everton. I found this one really difficult to call. West Ham, their home form's been not too bad. They beat Manchester United. They smashed Ipswich as well. Conceded in both of those games. So I think they will concede here. And Everton, unfortunately, lost to Southampton 1-0, giving them their first win, but I wouldn't read too far into that. I was considering a West Ham 2-1 win, but they've just been so up and down this season. So I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. But whether it's 1-1, 2-1, 3-0, my tip is just going to be under 3.5 goals at 1.4. I thought West Ham would win in a high-scoring game against Ipswich, but other than that, when do you really think there's going to be more than 3.5 goals in a West Ham game? You just don't really. So I'm going to say West Ham 1, Everton 1. Now after this, it is Wolves up against Southampton. Southampton, as I said, getting that first win, and Wolves getting a draw, but once again scoring in every game, conceding in every game. So I think Wolves are going to get a win here at home against Southampton. And I think Southampton are going to score. So I'm going to say Wolves to win 2-1. And the tip is Wolves to win at 1.9. You could look at Wolves and both teams to score at 3.5. I think they're going to get their first victory of the season here. Now, after this, it's Brighton up against Manchester City. Now, initially, I looked at this fixture and I thought, right, City have just come off of a loss against Tottenham in the Cup, Bournemouth in the league, and then Sporting in the Champions League, which, by the way, I tipped Sporting double chance on both teams to score on Patreon at 2.7, and Sporting went and won 4-1. I remember saying in the Champions League video, I wasn't confident in backing Sporting win to 0, so my tip was both teams to score, because I knew City would score, but I knew for a fact that Sporting would score, and they scored 4. I've never predicted Man City to lose in these Premier League videos, certainly not recently, because how do you go against it? And I thought about going 2-1 Manchester City simply because I was essentially factoring in the other results, because for them to lose against Brighton, that would mean they lose 4 games in a row. And that was going to sway me to go 2-1 Man City. But my tip isn't going to be in the result market, so for the culture, I'm going to do it. Brighton to win 2-1, and the tip is going to be both teams to score at 1.53. I could absolutely see City winning this 2-1, but one thing I don't see is Man City keeping a clean sheet. But also, I don't see Brighton winning to 0. So much like the logic of the Sporting Man City, where I predicted a score draw, so already fading Man City a little bit, my tip is both teams to score, so the score prediction is just a little bit of fun. And how cool would it be to correctly predict that Man City actually lose a game? No one ever does that. So I'm going to say Brighton to win 2-1. Now after this, it is Liverpool up against Aston Villa. Aston Villa play today at the time of recording against Club Brugge in the Champions League, vying for a joint top spot with Liverpool. I think Liverpool will probably, even if Villa do win, Liverpool will probably clear with goal difference after their amazing win against Bayer Leverkusen. 4 second-half goals is incredible. But Aston Villa, I think they can get the win against Club Brugge. I think 1 or 2-1, 1-0 or 2-1, most likely to Villa. But that could even be a draw, and I think Villa would be happy with a draw with their start in the Champions League. But Liverpool are going great guns, and they look phenomenal. They just have it's like a specific squad depth. Man City and Chelsea have squad depth, right? They have so many players, so many options, and City, obviously, they have tons of injuries right now, possibly even more, and the likes of Diaz and Stones are doubt for the game against Brighton. But Liverpool have like specific depth in their very prolific areas. Like, I wouldn't say they have a plethora of defensive players or like defensive midfielders, but when it comes to the attacking players, they have such good like-for-like players that can replace the first team that doesn't seem to disrupt their flow. So their squad depth is something very unique and special, and that's why they're the top of the Champions League and they're top of the Premier League. And I think they're going to beat Aston Villa here. Obviously, Villa came off a massive L against Tottenham 4-1, and I'm going to go for Liverpool to win this one. High scoring. I'll give Villa a little bit of a chance. We can't forget that it was only a few years ago Villa beat Liverpool 7-2, but I'm going to go for this one. Liverpool to win 3-2, and the tip is Liverpool and both teams to score at 2.62. I don't see Villa toppling them. I think it could happen, but I don't see it. Now after this, it's a repeat of the cup fixture. It's Manchester United up against Leicester. Man United will be playing in the Europa League. I don't know their fixture yet. I haven't delved into that for the Patreon and everything just yet, because I'm recording this before even the Champions League is taking place and stuff. But someone at the door, my dog's going nuts. But with this fixture, I do think Manchester United are going to get the win. Now, if we go back to the previous game, as I said, we predicted they draw 1-1 against Chelsea. It wasn't glamorous. I think Chelsea were the better team and could have snatched a win from that game. And Leicester drew 1-1 with Ipswich. And I think that Man United are going to bounce back here and win. I'm going to go quite convincingly, actually. Man United to win 3-1. And the tip is Man United and both teams to score at 2.6. Now, a few years ago, I used to sort of back Man United to win, Man United both teams to score with regularity, but it's rare that I do that these days, so it feels good to feel like I can trust Man United from a betting standpoint and back them to beat Leicester here. We actually, when the cup game they played, I tipped over on the Patreon both teams to score an over. That was like my banker, and that happened immediately, like within like the first half an hour, and then it ended, obviously, I think it was like 5-2 or something. So I think Man United win here and both teams score. Now after this, a very, very tricky one to predict. It's Nottingham Forest, Champions League places Nottingham Forest against Champions League chasers Newcastle. Newcastle beating Arsenal 1-0, and Nottingham Forest absolutely dispatching of West Ham 3-0. How exactly do you call this one? Newcastle were very hit and miss. As soon as they dropped their lineup against Arsenal, I really liked it. Not as an Arsenal fan, but as a football enjoyer, I felt like Newcastle could get something from Arsenal with that lineup. But Nottingham Forest, they just have form. And I think they're going to do really well here. I know they've been doing really, really well on the road, but they're just doing well everywhere. I just don't have the balls to predict Nottingham Forest to win. So I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. And although Forest kept a clean sheet against West Ham, Newcastle are better than them. I just think it's going to be low scoring, but I am fairly confident both teams will score. So I've combined a little tip here, and it's going to be both teams to score and under 4.5 goals at 2.15. So that means it can be 1-1, 2-1, 2-2, or 3-1 either way. That's a lot of scorelines that I think are the most likely, because naturally 1-0 is quite a likely scoreline when you think the game's going to be low scoring, but I just don't know which way to go, and I think both teams can contribute. So if I think both teams are going to score, do I think it's going to be 4-1 or above? I don't. So I'm going to say both teams to score and under 4.5 goals at 2.15. Now, 4-1 or above brings me on to our next fixture. It's Tottenham Hotspur up against Ipswich. I think Tottenham are going to absolutely batter Ipswich here. I know Ipswich are searching for that win. They were so close against Leicester, and they've been playing okay, but they're just not winners. They don't win. And Tottenham look really good at home and recently have been pulling off some great results. So I'm going to say Tottenham to win 4-1. And the tip is going to be Tottenham and over 2.5 goals. For some reason, I don't have the odds here. If Tottenham to, it's probably about 1.5, 1.6 for Tottenham and over 2.5 goals. Let me just check it out. Let's see how well I've got a handle on this game. Yeah, it's 1.47. Jeez. And the reason I say only that is because I don't necessarily think Ipswich will score and make it Tottenham and both teams to score, which would be way higher odds. I mean, what would that be? Tottenham and both teams to score would be 2.25. Even that's abysmal, really. It's 2.25 for Tottenham and both teams to score, 2.5 for Tottenham win to nil. You could bet on both, and then as long as Tottenham win, you have profit. But then, really, is it worth it? I'm not so sure. So I've gone Tottenham to win over 2.5 goals at 1.47 in case it's like 3-0. Perhaps if we look at the handicap market here, Tottenham -1 is way better, actually. Tottenham over 2.5 goals is 1.47. Tottenham -1 is 1.66. So I've just altered my prediction based on the value in the numbers. I think Tottenham -1 handicap is way better than Tottenham and over 2.5 goals because that also allows for a 2-0. So yeah, I think Tottenham are going to win this one quite comfortably. So we'll go with -1 handicap. Now the final game, we travel to Stamford Bridge. It's Chelsea up against Arsenal. I think if all teams were at full strength, I think Arsenal would win this game. But Arsenal aren't at full strength. They have an extra day's rest from European football. There's always weird results after European football. Part of me wanted to just bet on Arsenal to win here, just for the vibes, just as a gut feeling. But I simply don't know. And I'm going to go for Chelsea and Arsenal to draw 1-1. And the tip is going to be both teams score at 1.57. Arsenal play tonight against Inter Milan. I think that could end 1-1 as well. I also think Inter Milan could beat Arsenal in the position that they're in right now. But much like the Man United-Chelsea game, I think there'll be a lot of hype. I think the quality of this game will be better. But the Man United-Chelsea, that could have easily been 0-0. They were very lucky to get goals at either ends. I think this could be a much higher quality 1-1 draw. And the tip, as I said, is going to be both teams to score at 1.57. Now, I've been trialing and testing, obviously recording how well I predict certain teams in the Premier League or all the teams in the Premier League throughout the season. And I've been using that to compile trebles each week. And based on the teams that are playing each other and matching up, the 3 most likely fixtures I am to predict correctly based on this season so far is Wolves Southampton in first, Chelsea Arsenal in second, and Palace Fulham in third. So I have a little treble of Wolves and both teams to score at 3.5 to really boost the odds because that's my first place, game by quite some distance. Chelsea Arsenal both teams to score at 1.57 and Fulham double chance at 1.5. You combine that for odds of 8.25, and those are the 3 fixtures that I am statistically most likely to get correct. The ones that I'm least likely to get correct, and this is very interesting statistically, is the Forest-Newcastle game, the Tottenham-Ipswich game, but I would almost override that this week. I think Tottenham are such heavy favourites, I would disregard how difficult Tottenham have been to predict this season and say that they will win. And then Brighton-Man City, which is fair enough. How on earth do you predict that? So either way, I think Wolves and both teams to score, Chelsea-Arsenal both to score, and Fulham not to lose is a really nice little treble at high odds. But that is going to do it for this video. If you did enjoy it, please do drop a like, subscribe down below to join us on the road to 30,000 subscribers. I would really, and I'm not going to say that, like, I'm not going to go and do the La Liga, Bundesliga, and Serie A videos anyway and just use it as a ploy to get to 30,000 subscribers. If we don't get there by the 1st of January, then I won't do it, at least not to start with. I might do just one of them, but the only way for me to guarantee that, at least for the start in January, to see how it goes, that I will do all 3 leagues is if we reach 30,000 subscribers. I'm not just like saying it but going to do it anyway, you know, like, not to throw shade, but like Thogden does. Thogden says, if we get this many likes, I will do this, full knowing that he's already going to do it and probably has already done it, just to try and boost the likes. Like, I will only do this if we get there. That's how I think that promises like that should work. But the game's the game. That is going to do it from me, and I'll see you in the next video very soon.